Hello, Jambo, Salama family. Welcome to yet another teaching on the lost ancient tribes of Yashar'al in Africa. We had looked at a few tribes last time round, and today I want to dwell specifically on the Kalenjins. This is Brother Yahua of Yashar'al coming to you from Nairobi, Kenya. And family, I want to dispel, and teach truthfully about the true tribes of Yasharal. And this is informed by some of the things that I've heard online from majority of the awakened Israelites across the Americas, especially the US. Initially, they were saying that Africans are Hamites. They have since changed tune. Now it's Bantu are Israelites. Today, I want to expel this myth and I want to teach and clear the air on this misteaching. Of course, Bantu constitutes the biggest amount of and number of Yasharal, but alongside this, they have a lot of influences from Canaanites, from Elamites, and what have you. We also have other language classifications carrying Israelites, notably the Nilotes, which the Kalenjin belong. The Maasai belong also to the Nilotics, as well as the Kushites, that is the Oromo, Agau, Beta Israel, Falasha, and what have you. So today, I want to dispel this by giving you a teaching about the Kalenjin, their cultural, historical, and migratory hypotheses to support this. And of course, I'll be supporting this empirically and biblically. So as you can see by this map, you see the Israelites originated from Masraim or Kemet. The Kalenjin call Egypt Emet or Matsraim. They came all the way to Sudan, Nubia, Ethiopia, Kush, to Kenya, Uganda, and Tanzania. A majority of them live in Kenya, and they are known long distance runners as well as proper sportsmen, alongside their brothers in Ethiopia, the Oromo. So we can see the Kalenjins only worshipped one god, one deity, who is called Cheptalel. And of course, they practiced circumcision. And you can see from the arrows that they all came through Sudan, Ethiopia to Kenya, and they never went to the so-called Middle East. So that tells you something, family, that the promised land is around Kenya, around Africa, basically sub-Sahara Africa. They also had covenants and traditions. For instance, majority of them did not eat pork, even up to today, and they refused intermarriages completely. You can find it out, family. So you can see I wanted to bring this information out because we've been fed lies, and even some of the awakened Israelites, especially from the US, did not help this matter. So all the prophecies to be fulfilled, we must teach the truth and we must wake up all the Israelites family. This is the reason for this video today. So I'll start with a little bit of history. So the Kalenjin, which is an ancient lost tribe of Yasharal, we have seen bit of the history. I just want to add on this slide on the aspect of the Exodus, which is being taught by this community. They say that Mushaiga helped them to cross a river when they are being pursued by a very great, mighty army. And they crossed by the help of the staff that was in his hand. This is the story of Moses in the Bible. He's called Mushaiga in Kalenjin. And also they say one of their ancestors, the father of the tribe is Yakober, which is of course Jacob. And you can find these sources even online, family. Because some of the Europeans have written about them, and we'll see. And of course, they also say they wandered for 40 years in the desert, in the wilderness, because majority of them did not follow Mushaiga's teachings and their Elohim, Allahim. So you see, even in this slide, you see Yakober, you see 40 years, and you see Emet, which is part of the ancient folklore of the Kalenjin. So we have a few writers who have written about the Kalenjin. One of them is Philip Ochieng, as you can see on this article in Sunday, May 2010. This Philip Ochieng was a renowned Kenyan author that wrote a lot of articles in the Daily Nation, the days when we were growing up, and especially with regards to history. So he is quite solid in his research. So the Kalenjin also believe they came and displaced the Ogiek. The Ogiek are believed by the community to be Canaanites, which is quite true. As we can see here, um, the published works say that the Ogiek were called the Ndorobo Sirikwa, which was a part of Kalenjin Rift Valley right now. So the Kalenjin is an indigenous community now settled in the Mau slopes in the Rift Valley, all the way in Uasin Gishu, Nandi, Elgeyo Marakwet, and all the countries that are around, even to Uganda and Tanzania. So it is said that they have a lot of similarities to ancient Israelites, and they came around here 13th century BC. And we see most of their cities, like Jericho, is being looked upon like Kericho or Gilgil. Gilgal now. We have Gilgal in Bible, and we have Gilgil in Kenya. And of course, we see majority of their history is a bit Deuteronomy-like. Majority of their practices still carry that, and they are a very close-knit community up to today. So they did a mass circumcision at Pisgah, as I had insinuated earlier, by Yahusha, that is Joshua. And there is a mountain near Kipsigis land in Kalenjin called the Mountain of Circumcision. Up to today, you can find it. It's a small hill, and the majority of them believe they actually went to Uganda first, to Mount Algon. It's called Elgon now because the Europeans don't know how to say Elgon, don't know how to say Al Yahuwah, Algon. So they started dispersing from there, and they came all the way to Gilgal, that is Gilgil, in Nakuru. And interesting enough, family, we have some of these so-called Ish people that have come to buy land in Nakuru. Initially, by the way, Uganda plan was actually not even Uganda, but it was starting from Nakuru all the way to Tororo, where majority of the people are Kalenjins. So they came and they bought some 500 acres, and they want to relocate some few peoples from the new nation of Levantine, Palestine. So you see, family, you cannot hide forever. We call upon most of our people to resist because we all know what will happen. We'll have another Palestinian problem if not checked. So we want to avoid this by teaching this and showing our people who we are. So, of course, there's a lot of Egyptian influences even amongst the Kalenjins, as you've seen the Emet and Kemet that is still used by the Kalenjins up to today. Emet means land, Kemet means vast land actually. So Osiris or Osiris was a deity amongst the Edomites and Canaanites. And family, part of the reason why I am not so proud calling myself a Hebrew, because majority of the Edomites and Ishmaelites are also Hebrews. So I prefer calling myself an Israelite because Israel is a preserve for Jacob's children. So yeah, we can see a few empirical connections about Moshaik to Nubia. When he went to Nubia, that is Midian, to get some teaching from Yahuwah, and he was serving there for 40 years before he went to Egypt to free the Israelites that were already held captive. Also, I'll support this by scripture. So, Yahusha, Joshua chapter 5, verse 1, 2, 7, and 8, 9. So, and it came to pass when all the kings of the Amorim, that is the Amorites, which were on the side of Yarden westward, and all the kings of Canaanim, which were by the sea, heard that the Yahuwah had dried up the waters of Yarden from before the children of Yashar'al until we were passed over, that their hearts melted. Neither was there spirit in them anymore, because of the children of Yashar'al. And at that time, Yahuwah said unto Yahusha, Make thee sharp knives, and circumcise again the children of Yashar'al the second time. And their children, whom he raised up in the stead, them Yahusha circumcised, for they were uncircumcised, because they had not circumcised them by the way. Remember, the wilderness journey was 40 years, so there was no way they could circumcise while they were moving with their sheep, cattle, flocks, and young ones and women. So, verse 8, and it came to pass, when they had done circumcising all the people, that they abode in their places in the camp till they were whole. And Yahuwah said unto Yahusha, This day have I rolled away the reproach of Mitzrayim from you, whereof the name of the place is called Gilgal unto this day. So you see the connection about the Pisgah, the Gilgal, and of course about the ancient Yashar'alites is very much supported biblically. We'll also see a few of scriptural evidences. You see, 1 Chronicles 2 verse 9, the sons of Hezron that were born unto him, Yaramil, Ram, Chelubai. Basically, the two names at the bottom of the screen family, Ram and Chelubai, are Kalenjin names up to today. Chelubai, we shall see what it means later when I will be going through a few names. You also see in 2 Samuel chapter 6 verse 8, and David was displeased because Yahuwah had broken out against Uzzah, and he called the name of that place Paratz Uzzah up to this day. 1 Chronicles 13:11, and David was displeased because Yahuwah had made a breach upon Uzzah. Wherefore, that place is called Perez Uzzah to this day. This is just a transliteration from Paleo Hebrew to ancient Hebrew. 2 Samuel chapter 11 verse 13. And David sent and inquired after the woman, and one said, Is this not Bathsheba, which is Bathsheba, the daughter of Eliam, the wife of Uriah the Hittite? So you see, family, these are some of the things that I wanted us to go through today. I just wanted us to read that so that when we go and look at their connections, you will be able to infer more and to learn more. So I want to take you through the Hebrew to Kalenjin words and of course their translations. So for instance, the Feast of Sukkot. Feast of Sukkot means leaves. Sukkot means leaves in Kalenjin or structure. In the inferred language, it means booth as well. So the Feast of Sukkot and the Feast of Sukkot is still much present, even in Kalenjin up to today. The parliament in Israel is called Knesset, but they wanted to actually say Nganaset, but they could not say it Yahuwah people, because these people are not the true people. So this means a holy place with a congregation. Of course, there's nothing holy with the parliament down there. Caleb, as we've seen in the Bible verse, actually after King James, they removed Chelubai completely and called him Caleb. It means someone who brings corn, actually in Kalenjin up to today. Lubai is corn. If you want to dig further, it means of the basket, because he's the one that is blessed of the basket. Harosheth, the Harosheth of the Gentiles is found also in the Old Testament in Judges. It is Korosiot in Kalenjin, meaning a place of blessings unto Yahuwah. Yareak means Yarawa. Arawet in Kalenjin means the moon. Pharaoh or Pharaoh means Parao or Parakot in Kalenjin. Mean para is expansive, o and kot means house or means a kingdom or a house of the king. Malakim is Malak or Melekto in Kalenjin, means kingdom or influence over a kingdom. We also see in Ezekiel chapter 1 verse 3, Chebar or Kebar in many versions. Kebar or Chebar is the same thing in Kalenjin, it means to kill or a dead river. Parath, we all know Parath or Perath means Parat in Kalenjin or Perat means to kill. For instance, we saw Parat Utsa or Perez Uza, meaning to kill Utsa or to kill Uza. So Parat is to kill up to today in the Kalenjin language. We also have Baal or Beel, which means Beel in Kalenjin. It is of burnt fire to demons and other people who are not Alua. Jacob is Yakober in Kalenjin up to today, meaning a wise or a cunning man. Most of the ancient translations say supplanter, and of course Bathsheba. Majority of Kalenjin women call themselves Bot somebody, maybe Bot Peter, Bot Sheba, Bot, meaning woman of plenty or daughter of abundance. Still the same thing in Kalenjin up to today. So you see there's a lot of similarities even between ancient Israel, this is Paleo-Hebrew, as well as current Kalenjin languages. I will delve further into other evidence, and you see here that we have the title, The Black Jews of Kenya. This was done by Cynthia Salvadori, an Italian. She was writing about the ancient lost tribes of Israel in Kenya, and she was connecting them to the Falashas of Ethiopia, Beta Israel. And of course, there's some bit of biases, but I would encourage you to look online and read the entire article. You can see some of the locations of these Israelites family. Some of them are in Uganda, Rwanda, and Burundi, the Tutsis. Remember, family, it is not saying about the Hutus. And there's a reason why I'm saying this, because we'll come further to this in the future. So you see Kenya Nairobi Hebrew congregation. We've always been there, and these people have always known because these maps came in around 1844. So further evidence from Cynthia, the Gentile. So she talked about some of the tribes, especially the Kalenjin and the Meru tribes, that have ancient traditions which relate that their ancestors were slaves in Egypt and escaped through a parted sea, pursued by a wicked king. The story that I was telling you the other time, family. You see, the Kalenjins are Nilotes, the Merus are Bantus. And you see, even these European Gentiles, Cynthia Salvadori was an Italian researcher in Kenya. So she even met one of the former presidents, and we are going to watch a video later on. And Moi wondered out aloud whether the Kalenjin tribe, of which he was a member, could be one of the lost tribes because most of their practices were so similar to those of the Jews. And you can see this in the Jewish Traveler Hadassah, December 1995, page 36. Supporting all this, we also have another source from Maka, 1904. He wrote about the Maasai, also an Nilotic peoples in Kenya, and he connected them to the most ancient peoples of Yashar'al. And he even talked about Gideon. He called him Kidonoi. Kidonoi is still a Maasai name up to today. I have done some bit of research, and I have seen there's a lot of connection. And that's why a majority of Europeans love coming to Maasai land to learn about their history and, of course, to copy some of their historical, I would say, characteristics. And we also have another source, and you can see family. I'll read from the, actually, let me just read from the topmost bit. So later on, they began to disperse from these highland areas, sending small groups down into the less fertile plains and valleys to compete with or to transform the surviving Bushmen practicing a mixture of hunting, gathering, and shifting grain cultivation. After AD 1000, groups of Negro peoples speaking Eastern Sudanic or Nilotic languages moved south from the Nile area in present-day Sudan. One group came down to the Kenya highlands and northern Tanzania and assimilated the Cushitic speakers they found there. Their language, although mixed in origin, had a Cushitic emphasis. Today, they are represented by the Kalenjin peoples of the western Kenya, highlands, and by the Taturu, Tatoga, or Mangati of Tanzania. And we have also the Sebei. The writer here was a European. This book was also written in the 1800s, early 1800s, and the writer excluded the Sebei of Uganda family. So we can see there's a lot of historical, biblical, and many other empirical connections between the Kalenjin and ancient Israelites. Um, this book was quite an eye opener for me because you see, we have been told that Negroes are only Bantu, which is not true, as you can see by the writings of this Gentile. Um, and he wrote quite a bit about the Kalenjins and other Israelites, especially in West Africa. And you can see, family, that the book was called Sources and Methods in African History by Christian Jennings, revised. And there was some other versions which was older by other European travelers. So there's a lot of history, family, that cannot be ignored. We also have another Kenyan scholar here that wrote in October 11th, 2015. He's called Mutai Ngunyi. He's a government employed, I would say, policy researcher as well as advisor. So he said, did you know that the Kalenjin nation is one of the lost tribes of Israel? Their origin is Egypt. Reading Dr. Sambu's thesis is amazing, amazing, or maybe in amazement. Dr. Sambu is one of the finest sons of Kalenjin, and he's done a book on the ancient Egyptian Mitzrayim origins of the Kalenjins and the connections between the ancient practices as well as the present practices of the Kalenjin, all inferred from Egypt. So I would also advise you to look up that author and read his works. He also wrote 2 years earlier, 2 years ago, he wrote that Kalenjins are the true Israelites, and he asked Ikoswali, meaning, is there something? Is there a question? So these are further
when his
evidences just
friend,
to
Prime
support
Minister
this. So
Yitzhak
we are
Rabin,
going
was
to watch
killed,
this
and he was
clip
unable
of
to attend the funeral
Mzee
because we
Moi's
were
burial, and
traveling.
you can hear this person here,
However, I
and I'll come
explained
back after this clip.
that attending the Shloshim, that is the 30th day of mourning, would be a special act of great respect. He told me of a similar tradition among the Kalenjins. And then he turned to Dr. Sally Koske and said, make arrangements, we are going. As the only international dignitary at the Prime Minister's Shloshim, he was treated with great honor. Mzee and I found many traditions in common between the Jews and the Kalenjins, such as dietary habits, holidays, rites of passage, and even burial. We pondered if Kalenjins, this was his thesis, were not one of the lost tribes of Israel. When Mzee needed cataract surgery, he chose to go to Israel. When he began having difficulty walking 2 years ago, he jumped at the idea of further investigations in Israel, the land of miracles. Though medical investigations yield nothing much more than the need for increased physical therapy, however, spiritual therapy must have played a part.
So, family, that is part of my evidences today, and I'm happy that I have just opened a few eyes and showed you that we have more than just Bantu Israelites. I agree, they are the majority of the Israelites, but they are not the only Israelites. So it is also good not to teach half truths, teach falsely, and of course, spread further lies that most of our captors, slave masters, have been spreading. And you see, family, for us to truly be gathered, all the Yashar'alites must be woken up. That is Yahuda and Yashar'al, majority of them in Africa up to today. I also want to dispel the myth that all Yahuda went to the Americas. That is not true. We find some of the tribes of Yahuda in Kenya, in Ethiopia. I will delve in this further as we go further. So, family, please learn that we've been told a lot of lies, and some people want to continue spreading these lies, which has necessitated this video. I also will be doing videos on the awakening and on where we are in prophecy. But first of all, I want to clear the air on the lost tribes of Israel, especially those that are non-Bantu, to wake up the people and to know that there is a lot that meets the eye, especially in terms of teachings that are not sanctioned from Yahweh himself. I am not trying to bash anyone, but I'm just trying to teach our brothers in love and to spread the truth. So, conclusion is Yashar'al and Yahuda will come together as one family with Yahusha as our king, ruling in East Africa, which is the Holy Land. And I cannot wait, family, for the two sticks to come together, especially and worship Yahuwah and keep the laws like it was in the old. And of course, rule the nations that have put a yoke of iron on us, that have really done a lot in colonizing and slavery. So, part of the things that were happening in the United Nations recently, voting about slavery and reparations, is one of the first steps in recognizing this injustice. I hope most of our leaders will also follow through the Arab slave trade and, of course, colonization. We need to have family proper and colonization. I would say that, and a proper coming together for us to prosper and, of course, to do exploits in this land. This has been my foremost lesson today, and I want to thank you for joining in and listening to me. Have a lovely day, evening, morning, or afternoon, and bye bye. See you soon.